Inside the GM Studios halls, tabletop games where nightmares creep, in a realm where sanity is lost and weak. Welcome to the abyss where dreams shatter. Inside the GM studio, nothing else matters. Blood and chaos, the dark arts unfold. In the realm of role-playing, where legends are told.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Inside the GM Studios side quest episode where we field questions from the internet. We're going to start alternating these with the main episode so you guys get half the content, but it's half the work. So, or start listening more. We'll go back to 2 a week, but
There you go.
Gotta keep you hungry. Anyway, how this works is I have a d20. I am going to roll it. Matt here is going to give me a question. We are going to riff on how silly and absurd the internet is by caring about all of the minutia having to do with a silly game. But, that's what we're here for. It's what you guys love, so we're going to do it. And this week, I get a 12.
12.
12.
Okay. Got it. Bring that bitch over here. This one comes from Conscious Resident 804 on RS Game Masters with the title, hold on, sorry about that, Playable Guide or Omniscient GM.
Omniscient.
That's what I said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where was I? Right. Do you find it better / easier to guide players with the environment and several different NPCs, or with a character that journeys alongside the adventuring party? The campaign I'm leaning into is set up with a lot of biodiversity and theology, so I want your opinion on whether I should leave it all to the players to find their path and guide them based on what's around them, or have an actual, quote, guide, unquote, character / familiar that's a possible non-combatant and can explain certain encounters as they come upon them. If anyone has experience with both, I'd love to hear what pros and cons you've had with them.
That's funny because normally that's what I do. I offer the pros and cons, even if someone doesn't ask for them, because typically what they want is kind of a straightforward do this or do that answer. And I'm usually like, well, there are pros and cons. And this guy, or the writer, guy or gal, I don't know, seems to be soliciting the pros and cons. However, it's probably one of the rare instances where I'm firmly in one camp. Don't have a guide. This amounts to spoon feeding your characters the plot and the world and all of this. And the reason you probably ought not want to do that, unless your players are real fledgling players, and in which case it might be okay to do it, but only as training wheels, right? Do not have this be a static thing. First of all, there's some in-game logic that it just kind of breaks. Like you have a character that's along for the ride, and they're all in dangerous areas, but this character is never in any danger. Like they're a non-combatant. So when the fighting starts to commence, and what happens? The bad guys just ignore this person that's obviously a pretty big help to the party
Yeah.
and navigating dungeons and giving them lore and all this shit. They have some ability that makes them turn ethereal, so they can't be. It's a real hackneyed way to kind of have characters explore your world. It's tantamount to a breadcrumb trail with info dumps put in it, and you don't want to spoon feed your characters pretty much anything, because it removes one of the more satisfying aspects of a game, which is the mystery and unraveling it and feeling like your characters get what they like, earn what they get. And if they miss something, it's because they didn't do the legwork to investigate, or they're not curious enough, or they just don't have the skills at their disposal and they're not being resourceful. And if they do get those things, it's because they are those things, and then it's earned that's most of the satisfaction of a game, not just kind of going along on easy mode with a breadcrumb trail that teaches you, shows you everywhere you got to go, right? Um, so I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, I guess it does have the benefit of allowing your players to get their bearings and understand what it is that they're doing, but it will quickly become a crutch where your
Hmm.
players will just be impotent to do anything. And they'll just be like giant babies, like totally helpless to navigate your world. They
Well, like
won't know
you
what
said,
to
it
do.
becomes a crutch and they rely
Yep.
on that crutch, and you don't really want that. Because if you do the guide, like you said, if you're a fledgling player or you have fledgling players and maybe you are some of a newer GM and you just want this walking, talking source of information for them for a short time, that's great. But as soon as they get used to having that around and as soon as you take it away, it can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing some stuff like this in small doses. If something's particularly arcane, um, not like in an arcane magic kind of way, but like in a hidden from plain view, like occult, like hidden out of
Hmm.
plain view, and difficult to untangle or grok. Um, that might be a little bit to kind of give the players a little bit, but you don't want a character that amounts to kind of the mall kiosk or whatever that just gives you all the
Yeah.
information. And the reason for that is that, first of all, again, there are some practical considerations that kind of break the world. They alluded to an omniscient character. Now, if this character is so omniscient, why are they holding the character's hands? Like, why? It strains belief that one guide would know basically everything that the PCs need to know. And it really removes the interactive aspect of I am a GM, I lay challenges in front of the players, some of which are mysteries, some of which are puzzles to be solved that have a clear answer, some need some sort of resourcefulness or brainstorming, some thought to put through them, exercising different skills at different times and knowing when to do that is your job. But if you just give them all of the things that they're supposed to be doing, then you're playing their role too, and they're not really interacting with the game. They're just going along with the game, and that gets really stale and really boring really
Hmm.
fast.
I I'm usually on the side of no guide because I
Hmm.
feel the same way that guides are just going to end up getting in the way, or they're going to become the crutch that you don't want to continue to hold up the group. And it seems a lot of the comments here, as I'm just scrolling through them, I'm not even reading them all, but they all start with "Don't do a guide. Guides are bad. That's not good." Um, I could see like because I've done informative NPCs that has traveled with the party for a short time before it gets dangerous, and then they're just like, "I'm out of here. You guys have fun. I gave you some
It's
info. I'm out."
the times that it works are when it's not a staple of the game, right?
Hmm.
Like, because here's the thing is a guide like this amounts to what you call in fiction or in games exposition man. They
Hmm.
just know everything. The world feels more lived in and organic and therefore more satisfying to explore when different bits of information live in different locations. Maybe something scrolled on a temple wall. Maybe something is in a wizard's spell book. Maybe it lives in the head of the leader of the Harpers. Maybe it is something a townsfolk overheard. Maybe it's something, and so those different layers of information, there's value in just going and asking townsfolk the rumors that they've heard. And then maybe you come across one that is a servant in some noble's mansion and they hear some privileged information and you kind of you know hold that up against what you know from everyone else, and then maybe you question that person, and then maybe you find some documentation, and then maybe there's just different layers of information that are different, um, that give the players different levels of confidence that they're true, um, and are of differing importance. It's like usually you start at the bottom of that hierarchy and work your way up to more verifiable truths. And the more mystery oriented or um, role playing oriented your games are going to be, the more they climb that ladder.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just you get a rumor, you like rumor says that bad guy X is at place Y, and that's enough to go on for a quest seed. But maybe maybe you're trying to determine why two factions are warring and who has aggrieved whom more as to get an idea of who you want to help or something might be, for instance. So the just going on gossip maybe is not all that accurate because it's not verifiable. You know, you can't ruin some character's reputation or like raise their faction to the ground because people say that they're horrible, and it's like, yeah, but come to find out it's just those people, they're very loud, and actually they do represent the bulk of the people in the city, and it's just a big propaganda campaign against them or something, right?
Mhm.
And so if you have the stakes appropriately calibrated, then the PCs need to have a strong degree of confidence that the information that they have is true and actionable. And you remove that legwork and that layering of world, plot, stakes, and characterization for the players when you just have one character kind of as like an infallible chat GPT or something, right? And that gets just really boring, and then it doesn't really, what's the point of even interweaving all of this lore and all of these plot twists and everything if it's just going to be handed to the players? You might as well just
Mhm.
have everything be as it appears with no mystery or whatever, or just have the characters already know that knowledge, you know, like well, you know this, right? You could just give it to them as if they know it. And so that doesn't work as a pillar staple of the campaign. It can work if for a very narrow breadth there might be some character that necessitates this. But again, it's like they have a narrow degree of expertise, right? This one character is acting as a guide for the PCs who are going into some hostile swamp that's foreign to them. And very few people venture outside the city into this hostile swamp. And there's all sorts of legends and rumors about what lies there. And the PCs don't have a good way to make sense of what is true and what is not true because very few people actually traveled there. They just hear things. And the PCs don't want to go into the dangerous swamp blind, which is the only way they could confirm what is and isn't true. And so you have this guide come along and he says, well, I have ventured into these swamps and I have been traveling them for the better part of X amount of time. And if you need somebody help navigate, not to navigate for you, but to help navigate these perils to allow you to get your bearings and get over some particular challenge, once they've achieved that goal for the PCs, either for pay or exchange of a favor or something, or just because they're a noble character that you want to introduce as an NPC that has a particular layer of expertise, that's always good to do. Having NPCs like, oh, such and such is really keyed into what the woodcutters guild thinks and how they operate, and this person is a liaison to the harpers, and so they have expertise there, and this person is got some noble blood, and so they can pull strings politically for me. That's good to have a rogues gallery of characters in your story that the PCs can pull on as they get levels and get more experience. But that's because it allows exactly what I was discussing, which is different layers of different information to pull from that live in different areas. If you're introducing a character as a guide that is later going to be one of those, or just serves a specific purpose, like a hireling to kind of get over this one hump because it might be too challenging, or just the PCs would have no way of verifying it.
Mhm.
They help navigate, and then they're done. They're like, "Here's the dungeon. There you go. I've shown you the perils on the way here. You can navigate back by yourself. I'm out." Right?
Yeah.
Then it sunsets, and I think it can work there. But as a staple or a pillar of the campaign, it is doomed from the start.
Yeah, as like a forever bit of info that if you need is pretty much a walking computer with the internet in it. A lot like I love this last line that one of the commenters put in. Their comment says, I would advise against using a quote guide NPC. I personally find it more fun for my players to figure stuff out by observing the environment and talking to a lot of different NPCs with different perspective than getting directly told by the guide. Which this is my favorite part in brackets here, which almost always feel less like a character and more of an in-game, out-of-game telephone from the GM. That's exactly what I
Yes,
think it is.
think about it this way: The real world already has something that's equivalent to that. It's called a smartphone, right? You can get access to pretty much any information at the touch of your finger. And do you really think that players come to an RPG, a tabletop RPG, to have that experience replicated? I would think not at all. Like, I would think that they probably enjoy the fact that there is something that they can't know unless they figure it out.
Hmm.
Um, that's very, very cool and very satisfying. It's so much of what's missing in today's culture. Like, I talk about, it warmed my heart the other day. I was at the cigar shop and some guy was trying to remember something, and somebody gave him a hard time. He's like, "Dude, you have a smartphone," and he goes, "Yeah, but you know, I'm trying to remember. I'm not frustrated that I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm frustrated that I used to know and I can't remember." The idea is to try to remember, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a good exercise, right? We don't often think hard enough about things because we just know that the information that we might want is right at our fingertips. Try to remove as much of that from a fantasy-based RPG as you can, right? It's completely a different world without our technology, without our sensibilities. And this is part of what's appealing about it, that you fight people with swords and that you ride on horses and that the world is unexplored and unknown. And there are ideas like chivalry and stuff like this that just aren't in our world, right? There's um, some interest in kind of, tropier things than are in the real
Hmm.
world, precisely because the world is so complicated. So I just don't think that that's why most players would want. And even if the best case scenario, they would be frustrated, and the worst case scenario, as Matt said, is it would just develop into a crutch and they would just be going through withdrawals and have anxiety about what to do if they're not having their hand held through it. But if you train them on sink or swim, figure this out or don't, and then if they're not figuring it out, then you can place other mechanisms in the plot that maybe would inch them along instead of just telling them, no, this is like a a fucking cheat code for the game. Then it just kind of ceases to be a game when you have the cheat code, and then it's robs it of the entertainment value.
Yeah, I want to bring up that just in case there's listeners out there that are just saying, "What do you mean? We have modern settings in tabletop games and smartphones and the internet's out there." There's hell, there's the cyberpunk games that there's actual job classes that are online constantly. If you think about it, in cyberpunk games, there's a lot of cover-ups, there's a lot of shady deals that are not out there for information. That's actually why that, the Decker was created, was because they're there to dig through to find information. Sometimes they don't. Other
Yeah.
modern settings like VTM, Vampire the Masquerade, is modern. There is the internet. Nosferatu pretty much created it and use it. But in the world of the paranormal, not all of that information is out on the internet because they want to keep it a secret. So that's another
Yes.
thing, another reason that you cannot find everything that has to do with your game, uh, with the setting that you're in, be it as modern or as futuristic as possible. There's always going to be some form of information that is not out there to find. And I think
It's
that every tabletop game, unless they have no reason for it, which I can't see, unless you're just playing a firefighter simulator, pretty much, because
it's
everything else has like supernatural stuff or stuff that you can't find online. You got to go out and find it yourself.
well, even if you could, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking this too, because I did allude to it being a fantasy RPG, but there are plenty of modern RPGs that do leverage technology, but they don't apply our world's logic to to access to information,
Yep.
right? So you have a Decker precisely. He doesn't just go, "Oh, I find that information on the internet." If
Mm-mm.
it's plot inconsequential, sure, but we're not talking about things that are plot inconsequential. Like it's not like asking a townsfolk what ways, where do the Order of the Gauntlet meet, and he points you over there. That's not a guide, right? That's the equivalent of like I look up on my GPS in a modern game where the gas station is located,
Yeah.
right? That's not consequential to the plot, because that information is just something that is readily available. You're talking about information that is not readily available, that lives in the mind of one particular character. even games that use modern technology, the whole hacker in VTM or the Decker in Shadowrun, it's like they use their skills to uncover information that is buried somewhere in
Yes.
the digital realm. And that's part of where the drama lies, that tension. If you removed that and it was just like, well, anytime we need information, the Decker can just find it on the internet. And he just goes, yeah, internet, here it is. Then the world seems far less mysterious. And as a result, it seems far less dangerous because there are no stakes and you can just speed run to the end. And in which case, if there are no barriers, not only does it break the logic of the world, like, well, why has no one done this already? Just come over here and like slap this guy, right? There's barriers, information or things happening in the shadows. It's like saying, well, this bad guy lives up in the castle, and you go, oh, do we have to like fight through the gate? And then are there like lions in the garden and guards in the hallways? Like, no, you basically could just walk in there and kill him. But no one bothered to do that yet. I mean, he's in a castle, but the castle's not protected. The walls are open, the gate's open. You just have to walk in there and fight him. And I'm like, why doesn't the whole town just storm the gates and go in there and kill him if there are no barriers? It's like, well, we just didn't occur to us, you know? It's like, it just makes no sense, right? And so you need there to be barriers and challenges, maybe not at every level where, like I said, you don't, it's okay to like for the PCs to be asking somebody directions, but they need to be mining information at all levels. And the stuff at the very low level of information, stuff that's just basic, widely available, probably should come to the PCs very easily. But I cannot count how many times in a game that there has been more fun made by the fact that something that is readily available information, totally accessible to the PCs, and can be somewhat important to the plot, and someone just neglected to ask. They neglected to find out, like, oh, like the most basic of basic information. And this can just be like a comedy of errors at times. It's like, well, what did he say when you asked him about like where the temple was located? It's like, oh, I didn't ask him where the temple was located. Well, we kind of need that information there, Matt character. What did you talk to him about? Well, I don't know. We're getting all into the politicking and all the high level lore and everything. I'm really abreast at that, but I have no idea where the temple is. It's like, so it teaches your players the sort of questions they should be asking, not just of other NPCs, but of the world in general. How do I interrogate the world, right? Investigate, explore, look for secret things, check for traps, ask NPCs characters. And if you do that enough, then your characters become more capable and resourceful. And if anything, sometimes they become so much that way that you're just like, dude, like, okay, you like, not everything is super hidden. Like, we just kind of need to get on with the plot. But that's a better problem to have than they're just going like, I don't know, like what are we supposed to be doing? It's like, what do you mean? What are you supposed to be doing? They should have a glut of questions in their head that they want answered, and they should be pursuing them aggressively with every resource at their disposal, using their skills, using their magic items, using the NPCs and the relationships that they've built, like their ability to investigate, interrogate, to scout out, like all these things. And the more they do that, the more they go like, okay, yeah, now we're like kind of unraveling this plot and peeling this onion. But if it's just there in two dimensions, like you can see everything perfectly clearly, and all they're doing is navigating toward it, that just gets really, really stale, really, really fast.
Yeah, I think I would go instead of a NPC guide, this walking, talking source of information that goes with them on all their travels. Try to have more of like an NPC mentor back in town, just
Hmm.
that person that the party feels comfortable with, and that seems to have his finger on the pulse of everything going on in the region around him. So that,
Hmm.
like David was saying, as soon as you bring in that one character that they feel comfortable around, that they know they can go to and ask questions, that always seems to have an answer for everything, kind of opens up the world a little bit more, because now they go and they start talking to more NPCs to get
Yes.
more information, and it becomes, of course, the world feels more alive because there's all these people to interact with. So I think that's
Yes.
much better than just somebody that they can bring with them.
Yeah, you touched on something that I think is really important, which is an NPC knowing something should open the world up, not close
Hmm.
it off, right? So you got to think about it. My issue is not so much that you have an NPC that helps the players with things, because that is very important. some games rely on the characters just being islands unto themselves, and they need no help from anyone, and they live and die by their own moxie and knowledge. But those games are pretty few and far between, and
Hmm.
even the games that emphasize that, still it's like maybe for one quest or two, but you need other NPCs to make the world feel more alive. And the problem that I have with it is something that is a tantamount to, like I said, the kiosk at the mall that just kind of tells you where everything is. It's the omniscience of it. Try to think in terms of what are the limits of this character's knowledge, and the more knowledge that they have, the more powerful and important they are. And so that should scale, right? Like at level 1 or 2, why the hell would your characters have access to somebody that knows everything about this region? They're nobodies. But like as they gain importance and they make an ally with somebody that knows a lot, they're a king, they're a duke, they're a faction leader, they're, the head of an assassin's guild or something. Knowledge should be power in your world, and the more knowledge a character has, the more powerful they ought to be. When you have some nobody that isn't even like a combatant having a lot of knowledge, it strains belief, and
Hmm.
it also strangely makes them less valuable, not more
Oh,
valuable.
dude,
And
you know what it made me think of? Just real
what's
quick,
that?
because now it's stuck in my head. All I can think of is a stupid fucking fairy from Ocarina of Time. Just, hey, listen. Just like, go
Yeah,
fuck yourself. Get out of here.
yeah, and that was a big addition that a lot of people in that game didn't like quite as much.
Hmm.
But there is more mystery in that game than some other games, so maybe there's at least a little bit of that. But you're exactly right. Like the PCs gaining access to NPCs that have knowledge, and if you tightly control what knowledge they have, then the PC should have questions that that NPC cannot answer. And maybe even that NPC would say something to the effect of, I don't know that. I'm not a military strategist, but this general guy over here that's been in the region for a long time might. And then you go, okay, how do I get to talk to him? Well, he's not an easy guy to get to, right? Like he didn't get to be like this great commander by like allowing anybody to gain audience with the wizard. So, you kind of do something to impress him. And then right there's maybe like a quest thread. You go like, okay, like there's this problem that he's been dealing with and he's been having trouble rooting out this band of hobgoblins and if you did that, you might curry some favor with him. And then in which case he might talk to you and give you some information.
Hmm.
Those sort of things are really easy for like minor quest seeds, right? You could just interject enough of them by vanguarding certain people's attention and time. But when you just have like a power up that allows access to an NPC that, by all rights, should not have access to a ton of knowledge in a world where knowledge is powerful, then it just kind of like it makes the characters less curious, not more curious. And sometimes I've been guilty of this in my early years of GMing, where I suddenly began to realize that like I realized I did a lot in VTM in the early days, where it was like I was just kind of didn't want to have a big cast of characters, so it was like the main NPC that the players would be interacting with. He was old and he kind of knew a lot of stuff, and so he was always helping the NPCs out. And I realized after a while, anytime the NPCs didn't know some or the PCs didn't know something, they just kind of defaulted by going to him and asking. And I kept rewarding that by giving him. It's like, look, I need to like dial in how much this guy knows because he shouldn't be involved in everything that the PCs do because then he's not an NPC anymore. He's a
Hmm.
PC that is just kind of governing where and what the players do. You don't want to do anything as a general rule in an RPG that full stop removes your player's agency from doing anything, exploring the plot, getting to the yeah, you have to have guardrails. We've discussed this on a previous episode. You got to have guardrails to, but you don't want to railroad the players into a particular thing because it just removes their ability to explore and investigate the world, which is a good chunk of the fun in an RPG.
All right. Well, I think that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. First time doing it, like David said at the top, we're going to flip flop the episodes for a little while. Main topic sort of stuff. Do community question the week after. So let us know what you think. Do you like this format? You want us to change it back up? Tough. Going to be this way for a while. If you want, send us an email at insidethegmstudio@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. If you got any questions yourself, if you got any questions or some topics for the main topic episodes, send it in. We'd love to talk about it. But I think that's going to be it for this week. I don't know how to end this now because this is a little bit different. Fuck it. I've been your host, Matt.
And I'm David.